Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Sorry, we had a few technical difficulties with the camera, and then hey, you need to do some updates before you can start, which of course took way longer than anyone ever imagined. So, I want to, Pam's gonna pull up the agenda here shortly, to share with you. We will have a basic agenda that we'll go through, and obviously we can't go through a long agenda each meeting, so we will either pick back up at the next focus group meeting. These will all be recorded, so if you're not able to attend, you're able to tune in and see what has been talked about. We'll do some quick introductions of the people who are in the room. So you know who's here as well as online. You all can think. I don't have the screen in front of me, but I think that you've all identified yourselves online. But I'm Sarah Takota. I'm the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Allocation Manager. And then Christina, do you?
Christina Zink, Housing Program Manager, Disaster Recovery for Nebraska Department of Economic Development.
And then
I'm Pam Skinner, and I am the Allocation Assistant Manager.
I'm Cassandra Stark. I'm the Allocation Coordinator.
Michelle Grimes, Housing Specialist with Department of Economic Development.
And then our additional guests.
Carly Davis, Hoppy Development.
And Lindsay Limbach, Ice Miller.
Great, thank you.
Pulling up the agenda now.
So one thing that I'll mention, because it'll be posted on the website here very soon, is that we have very busy few days with applications, and we're gonna have a very busy few weeks scoring them because we received 26 applications. So that's maybe possibly a new record. Definitely a lot more than what we've seen over the last few years for sure. Can't think of the last time we were up over 23. So what we would like to start with is just a reminder today of sort of that we will have additional meetings. There'll be one on Friday, May 17th from 9 to 10, Wednesday, May 22nd from 10 to 11, and then Tuesday, June 4th from 2 to 3. Again, you're also always welcome to submit comments. Since this is in the just the focus group part of this, none of the comments are necessarily it's not public comment or published or anything like that, but you will have an opportunity, of course, to make public comment on the QAP when we have it updated and shared with everyone. So we want to talk really quickly about some of the changes that we made. And again, as we go through each topic, please feel free to chime in on your thoughts or what your thought process was or what you're thinking about what we're mentioning. And also we'll leave time at the end for you to just bring up other topics as well. So we'd like to start out with the process. We did, as you all know, made significant changes to the threshold process and went to a threshold deficiency review process, where instead of doing threshold at the beginning, we now had, and then you could submit the rest of your documents. We changed that order up where you submit your full application, and then we do a we just review, we review the whole application, but we don't allow you to update any threshold items. And our goal with that was to have more applications that met threshold. And granted, we've only had one competitive round and one bond round, but it's been on those two rounds, it did seem to work. We did have a lot less developments that did not meet threshold. Any particular comments on that and concerns?
I would like to say that I like that process a lot better than the previous process, and I hope that we keep doing that way. I feel like there's so much more opportunity to make mistakes when you're allowed to change everything after the threshold review. So I hope it stays that way personally.
And that's what we saw is that you change one thing and then not change it somewhere else and then it wouldn't be threshold. Anyone online have any comments? Feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. So the next topic is the rounds and the timing of them. Now this is the first time that we, this 9% round is our very accelerated round where if everyone likes the idea of having a May round, but then an award in, I always say the wrong month, August. Thank you, our conditional reservation in August. So again, we're forward committing. So this year in August, we will be forward committing the 2025 credits. Did anyone have any comments, concerns about the timing? I know we've moved it up because of feedback over the years that you'd like to see it sooner, and I think we probably moved it up about as much as we feasibly can. But is there any comments? Online? Right. In the room?
I like that timing as well.
Thank you, Carly. That was Carly again, folks.
It's Connor with Excel.
Connor, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna echo. Yeah, I like the timing as far as, giving the development more, time frame to close. As you know, it takes around 6 months or so to close. More or less depending on the funding sources. I guess one comment I had, and it wasn't that big of an issue, just because theirs is a little different, is to maybe have it. I know like this year is like Kansas was like basically the day after. So I don't know if you could coordinate with maybe neighboring states. I don't know. And I don't know if you guys look at that or how that works with I know QAPs come out at different time frames, but maybe look to not have it so close to other states that are nearby.
And then go to select speaker. Yeah. Which one? Go to that one. Press on. Done. Connor, can you please speak again? Okay,
Yeah. So I don't know how much you heard. This echo. Can you hear me?
I'll try and speak again.
This is awesome. And then the next one. One more time, Connor.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Why is it not working? What speaker that? Bottom right hand corner.
Oh, no.
Preston, it says Preston.
So is that what you have it connected to at the top? This is so weird.
I hate this. No.
Okay.
Okay, Preston. Cause that's what this says.
Can anyone else speak perhaps? Please.
Testing. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yeah, we can't.
Rob Living testing.
And the volume.
I can hear you, Rob.
And I can hear you, Connor.
Switch.
Oh, it's working.
So the microphone's working and our speaker's working.
Set leave that up, set up a Zoom or set up a Teams meeting. Do you want to set up a Teams meeting real fast? Or well, you'll have to do it. You can invite everyone to Teams or give them a phone number. It's up to you.
Whichever I will. Will Teams work on here though?
I don't know.
That's the problem.
Hold on, folks. David's on vacation.
It only tested the two,
Sorts of things.
Sorry, we're not either.
but
That's where the test works.
the test works, I don't know why we're not hearing.
What's that? Last month's same as system, that's what we were on before though, right?
Yeah, which is what it should be working. Can someone, Rob, Thomas, Connor, can you try speaking right now, please?
This is Rob. Hello.
Okay, I can hear Rob.
I can hear, this is Thomas. I can hear pretty well, but I can't hear the NIFA folks, but I can hear Connor and Rob.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Connor?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. I apologize. Was anyone talking about the threshold round before?
Yeah, I was just saying that I just echo that I do like the timing as far as, gives us more time to close and, it takes, 6 months, give or take, depending on the funding sources to close anyway. So, with that August award, we look, that aligns perfectly with, closing first quarter the following year. And then one comment I had, I know that's some of that's beyond your control and is just see if you can, like I just noticed this year, Kansas was, their 9% round was the next day after Nebraska. And so I don't know if that's some way that you guys can just look at least neighboring states when they have their rounds to see so it doesn't line up so closely. But I know I understand that, their QAPs come out at different times. So I know that's hard to do, but just one comment.
No, Connor likes the time and the timing of the rounds because it gives him more time to close. Did anyone have any threshold comments that are participating by Zoom?
Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. Christina, did you want to make the announcement about CDBG-DR?
Sure. For the 26-27 QAP, there will be no CDBG DR funding available for 4% or 9%. And also for the 2025, there will not be any CDBG DR funding for the 4%. Just due to timing and limited funding, so
When you're out of funds, you're out of funds.
you won't give me any more money.
Okay. Going on to general ideas of scoring. We've had a lot of comments about, in general, about that we cut down the value for the weight of the efficient housing production measurements. And we've heard from some people that, and surprisingly enough, some developers, that they feel like we took the, we went too far. Is there any comments about or general discussion about how you feel about the efficient housing production numbers as they are now? Do you think they should stay the same, be more, be less? I don't see them going away completely because I still think it's an important factor, but I'm just really interested to hear from our partners. Anyone online?
This is Connor with Excel, and I've said it before, but I mean, I kind of like the way they are as far as having the 6 points. I think it toes the line where it's enough that that they have the cost efficiency points where you can consider allocating the light techs for projects that you're not given. But anyways, I like where it's like kind of in the middle of as far as points for cost efficiencies, whereas like Kansas, they don't offer any, they have any for it, or like Oklahoma, they have it's all cost efficiencies, and I like Nebraska where it's a happy medium, because sometimes if you go for too much cost efficiency, it's just, how cheap can you build it type of thing, and the quality a lot of times on those projects can go down because of that. But I like how there's enough points where you can make up for it, but then also there is, you got to be aware of the cost efficiencies in Nebraska, so you're utilizing the tax credits, wisely as well. So.
Anyone else? Thank you, Connor. Anyone else online? Anyone in the room? Okay. The natural disaster section of the application, part of that, we changed that a couple of QAPs ago, thanks to the CDBG DR funds being available. And since this is a joint application with the Department of Economic Development, we changed the way that entire section looked to really highlight the area that was impacted by DR 4420. Yeah, it's exciting for me to get that right. So we will structure this a lot. We will go back to the way we used to do it, is our idea behind it. And that a disaster has to be presidentially declared disaster needs to have occurred. There needs to be a loss of housing, as well as what we have right now is that the disaster must also qualify for individual assistance through FEMA. So we'll work on language on that, but that's sort of similar to what we had in the past. Maybe we're a little bit more vague, so we want to try to make sure that we give you a better details about this. Also, we know that right now we just suffered a disaster in Nebraska, so we are aware that can happen in any moment, and we just want to make sure that QAP is able to be nimble enough to handle those particular situations when we do have a disaster declared at any given moment. Any comments about that? It's more just kind of like an update, but we're happy to hear any comments. Okay. Metro versus non-metro. We started scoring those in separate categories this last QAP, completely doing ranked alternates, and really to get us closer to that true 50-50 split. We've gotten away from that in the last 5 years. It was definitely metro heavy. So we feel like this change has helped us get to that point. The designated ranked alternates, we've had one development that was able to take advantage of returned credits since we've made the change. It doesn't happen that very often, but it's nice to have that opportunity for a project to move forward if someone returns credits. Does anyone have any general comments about that remaining the same or similar?
I'm for it remaining the same or similar.
Anyone online have any comments? So other selection criteria, we have things like Crown. Our board really likes Crown because and we feel like we get a lot of feedback from legislators and the governor's office that home ownership is the end goal. So the Crown program is the only way really that we can use the credit towards ultimate really to get that building into ultimate home ownership. So are there any suggestions on what you would like to see with the Crown program? If you've done it, is there ways to improve it to make it, more accessible? What are general thoughts from those of you that have used Crown with true Crown luras? Not some super old ones that have old weird luras. Out to you, Carly. Rob, I know you've done some Crown deals. Do you have any comments about how Crown is currently structured?
I was actually just pulling up the application. I mean, if you look at the extended use period, if you do a crown, you lose 2 points effectively, but you gain 2 points on the crown points. But then the waiver of the qualified contract, I don't think Crown's not eligible for that, are they?
No.
So then there's minus 3 points for a Crown project. So if you want Crown to be competitive, it needs to not lose those 3 points, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Versus doing the same single family house project with, with a longer extended use and not the Crown piece. And excuse me, and also on the Crown piece, you're putting aside that $50, $75 a month, whatever it is, into that escrow, so you actually can take on less debt. So in reality, Crown probably needs to go from 2 points to 6 points to have it be promoted.
Yeah, we're very aware that about the point situation, at least with the qualified contract, but yeah, thank you. We appreciate that information. Anyone else thought about doing Crown, have done Crown? Anyone else online that wants to chime in? Harley, have you guys done any that had the real Crown luras?
We have, I think, Creekside had a real Crown Lura. That one's not to year.
Okay.
It'll be to year 15 in a year or two.
Yeah, and I can tell you that that one of the things we're looking at internally, well, not we, it's actually our compliance team is working on, is that transition with the Crown project. So hopefully we can streamline things and make things a little bit clearer and easier to work through.
On the Crown, I just wanted to say, I'm glad that compliance is now monitoring the Crown program, because it hadn't been for a while, and it's hard to remember what you committed to 15 years ago if no one's checking up on it. So we appreciate that it's being monitored.
Yeah, things definitely do change over time, sometimes for the better in this case, right? Thank you. Okay. Another topic is senior development. We haven't had a chance to look, well, I haven't had a chance to look at what these, this most recent round of applications have been, but our developments that have been awarded in the last, what? Okay, the overwhelming amount of overwhelming amount of developments over the last 2 years have that have been recommended have been senior developments. I know that there's always been talk about increasing those senior points to us. Scoring the apps and looking at the apps, it doesn't appear to be that senior projects have a hard time getting the points. And getting awarded, just based specifically on the last 2 to 3 years. Is there any comments about anybody want to chime in your thoughts on that? Should we lower the points? Should we keep them the same? Anyone online?
Yeah, this is Rob. I'll just say, I think a lot of people gravitate towards seniors for operational reasons after the fact of lower cost per unit per year to operate. And it's not that family deals are currently uncompetitive in the scoring matrix. I think it's just operationally, sometimes senior deals are a little easier to handle than a family project. And that might be some of the reason why people gravitate towards them.
Yeah, and we just we just wanna make sure that we're finding balance. I mean, we don't ever wanna make it so that the application is the reason that, you know, we wanna make sure that family developments and senior developments are on a level playing field. We do understand that market drives a lot of that, so we're not, you know, again, we're not saying, hey, we're gonna take away those points, we don't think it's important, not at all, we're really just trying to make sure we're looking at things in a really balanced way.
Hey, Sarah, this is Andrew Danner. My comment on the senior would be, I think senior, especially in urban and even rural too, I think the senior covers two bases in my opinion. When you go into a community, the seniors that are living in housing that they've outgrown or outdated, that they can't get around in, move to these properties, and that opens up existing housing within the community a lot of times that the senior otherwise would have never moved out of, that allows a family, you know, because that house that may have aged out of it, can't get the ADA stuff to it, and they moved to a property that, you know, we've developed with this program, and then you're a twofold and you get two hits for the community by opening up one unit. And so that's why I think the senior is pretty impactful.
Definitely, thank you. Anyone else online?
This is Connor with Excel. I'll echo what Andrew and Rob said. You know, we have a lot of our developments, maybe a quarter, some less, some more, depends on the community. For seniors, that they'll come from an older single family home. And then, you know, the points are so similar in the QAP, there's like a 1 point difference. I mean, we base it off the community's needs as far as, you know, what they want as far as senior housing or you know, if they need more housing for their workforce, what have you. So, I mean, the QAP, at least in our decision wise, doesn't really drive, you know, at least in Nebraska, what senior family development.
Okay, thank you, Connor. Anyone else? Okay. So one of the board's policies or policy objectives is to really encourage development of housing in greater Nebraska. So 2 QAPs ago, we added in some language giving points to developers who have developed in smaller communities, just in general. So it's sort of like a track record. If you've been willing to work in smaller areas and you can illustrate that you've done, you know, X number of units, then you would qualify for those points. I don't know that we've necessarily seen a huge increase in other developers willing to go out and work in other areas. I know that we've talked about the fact that if you're regional or nonprofit that's just based in one city, then that is definitely something that could be detrimental to nonprofits. So we're definitely sensitive to that, and we are looking at that. If this question remains, which I have a feeling it will in some way, we do plan on really tightening the question up and even perhaps giving you know, a form or something to fill out, because we've had some confusion on it and just, you know, some issues with people not getting points. So that's been sort of a challenge. So that's kind of some general comments on that. But we'd like to hear is, as developers or as community members, is there any way that you feel that would help you, that we could do with the QAP, that would drive you to look at you know, communities under 15,000, 10,000? Under, let's say 15,000 until I look it up in the QA.
Hi, this is Turner with Pedcore Investments. I wanted to touch on this, and it kind of speaks a little bit to a couple of the other things that we've already discussed. specifically the metro versus non-metro, as well as the balancing of some scoring priorities. I think one of the biggest, and this is speaking from the bond side, from the 4% side specifically, but with the scoring criteria in there, which gives QCT sites and SADDA sites both points, and so many points, it really eliminates any opportunity or any intention to develop outside of those designations, which the rural communities have very, very few of. Not even to mention that developers are already financially encouraged to partake in development within those areas through the boost. I would say if it's NIFA and the board's intent to spread resources more or less to the western side of the state, I would discourage scoring relative to QCTs and DDAs.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Turner. Any other comments? Okay.
Yeah, Sarah, this is Rob. I'll just say that the number of, just look at where the developers that are applying for our funds are located. And I mean, you have Lincoln, Omaha, and maybe, another group in a smaller community, the Mesners. I mean, Excels in Lincoln. So there, a lot of the developers are based in towns over 15,000.
Yeah.
And to motivate them to go do a project, a 3-hour drive from their main office where they could do one 3 miles down the road. There has to be, I think, some encouragement for that, to get folks that are in the larger metro areas to go do those projects where frankly they make less money because they're doing 15, 20 units versus 50, 60 units. And so maybe you consider one, increasing the developer fee allowed as part of eligible basis for small communities to incentivize people to go to those communities. But I also think you definitely have to have a point mechanism to incentivize people to go do a harder project than they could otherwise.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else online? Anyone in the room?
No, I just thought that, Rob, that was a really interesting idea about increasing the developer fee allowed for a harder project like that. Because we do a lot out in greater Nebraska.
Valentine and yeah. I think at this point in time, we've got about 20 minutes left. So I would like to suggest basically opening up the floor to you guys to bring up topics that you'd like to talk about, give you the opportunity to start a conversation about things that you're concerned about or you'd like to see happen or you're excited about. So if you would, you can unmute yourself and speak, and if we have too many speaking at one time, then we'll just call on someone to speak. But otherwise, we'd really like to hear from you about your topics that you feel are important. Anyone online want to start out?
Hi. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to actually talk about this because this has been on my mind for a while now. So I work for Metro Transit here in Greater Omaha area. And I was just curious to know if there's some sort of, I would say, point system sort of incentive out there to encourage people to build developments along transit routes, because I think there's a high need for that in the city and in other parts of Nebraska as well. I'm just curious to know if anyone has thoughts on that, like what processes are currently in place to like encourage uh uh you know, big housing projects along transit routes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mhm.
So this kind of segues into our areas of high opportunity. And we had been using a predefined area of high opportunity from an organization. I can't think of the name of the organization right now. The current Kerwin Institute, I think, did a lot of the research on it. But we are developing an internal scale of areas of high opportunity. And one of the things that is definitely that we're looking at is proximity to public transportation. So that's definitely something we're looking at. So yes, it is something that we've heard about and we're listening, and it is something that it will not be its own. We don't foresee it being, you know, hey, if you're near public transportation, you get, you know, 2 points, but we are going to take that into account in our areas of high opportunity scoring. So it's definitely something that will be considered.
Thank you. Do you think that would be like a public session thing? Because I mean, I would like to be involved in some way. If there's an opportunity for that, please, I would like to know. And it doesn't have to be now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Make sure that you are signed up for our newsletters on the website. There's the NIFA at NIFA.org. If you scroll to the bottom, you go to news, sign up for news, choose developer, then you definitely will get all the invites and all the notifications about all of our events, probably more than you ever want to know. But we will be talking about the areas of high opportunity outside of the QAP process, as well as part of the QAP process. So there'll be a couple opportunities definitely to be part of that conversation.
All right. Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting because I've always thought the proximity to services in the small communities, it was interesting that there was not the same kind of point system for the metro areas, because I personally feel like people in a metro area would be more likely maybe not to have a vehicle than in a non-metro area where you're gonna need to drive to bigger cities for certain services anyways. So yeah, I agree with that comment a lot about transit and proximity.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Sarah, this is Drew Silva. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Drew, thank you.
Yeah, I was jumping in. I had it on my mind anyway, but this is probably a good time to bring up in regards to, you know, those supportive services and the location of those services, whether it's via points or otherwise. One of the things that we've struggled with at times is in some of the affordable housing projects that we think are beneficial to the community and the types of projects that we want to do and have executed on in the past. One of the linchpins of those has been reserving that first floor for commercial space, and, you know, even more so commercial space that is community service facility designated, so that we can get, you know, you're providing ultimate benefit to the tenants. And that, you know, in that instance, it includes some of what was just talked about, the fact that, you know, transportation mobility can be so difficult for these individuals living in those little housing projects, especially at times in those metro communities, just because, you know, while the services may be available, they're not oftentimes condensed down into a locale that makes it easy to move between in a fashion other than, you know, that isn't walking. And so I at least wanted to bring up, and I'll probably, we'll bring it up as we get closer to formal comment, but I was curious on, folks' thoughts and opinions with regards to incorporation of commercial space into the project itself, because then you do have such proximity for benefit of service. But right now, when we do those types of projects, there really isn't any point value to it. And oftentimes it's probably more of a competitive hindrance just because we include those costs on an overall basis, but obviously on a per unit and per tenant, that first floor is not occupied by those.
Yep, and definitely, Drew, this is the time to discuss it because
Yep.
we're using this information to revise the QAP. So 100% bring up anything you've got now. Do not wait until we've already done the QAP and it's out for public comment. Please go ahead and make any comments. Now, and if you want to, you can submit it in an email also, just so that, again, informal, but we can then, really reflect on it.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And maybe before answering, I will add, because it was brought up as well, and this kind of gets to urban projects on a whole, and some of the ones that we've previously either done or applied for. One of the things in those supported, it's not, and I'm thinking back on the application itself, because there's kind of two designations, but there's supportive services that you offer specifically as part of kind of the point system. But then there's, as you said, right, there's the federal website or program that you go into that shows areas of opportunity. And in those areas of opportunity, oftentimes it feels antithesis to the overall goal of the program, in that when you're trying to develop low-income housing, oftentimes it's in those areas that are poverty-stricken, that are struggling, and the area of opportunity might have low scores for that very fact, but it's a cycle of bottoming out until you can get more density, more reason to invest in that community. But if the scoring is based upon things like education, healthcare, in those communities that are on the downturn or are bottoming out, it makes it hard to be awarded points when you're trying to uplift that area of a community. So just wanted to add that in there as well, just because it is applicable in terms of projects, especially those urban infill projects where you're trying to do those in areas that are maybe otherwise struggling.
That's right, Drew. We try to find a balance. Definitely the board wants to make sure that there are developments done in areas of high opportunity, but also those that maybe want to stay. People want to stay in their community, and maybe it isn't an area of high opportunity. So we do try to balance that out, specifically with the QCT points that are tied with the CCRP and things like that. So thank you. Well, noted. Anything else from we've still got a good 15 minutes-ish.
Yeah. Hey, this is Rob. I just wanted to add one thing onto the transit and how it works with the areas of high economic opportunity. And I can't speak for Lincoln. I just tried to Google their transit map, but I couldn't really find one quickly. But at least in the city of Omaha, the areas of highest economic opportunity have no bus service. And so this is going to be for you guys, I think, threading the needle of areas of high economic opportunity versus public transportation, because in the largest city in Nebraska, it doesn't exist in that regard. And so you're going to have to thread a needle on that, which is the priority. And then also taking into account that that at least for the city of Omaha and Metro Area Transit, they have smaller buses that will go off of routes to transfer low-income residents. That is not a fixed route. And so taking that into consideration and combining that with areas of high economic opportunity should be something that, in my mind, should be considered. So thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we are realizing it's threading the needle. It's been an interesting process, and for those of you that, when we had our survey open, we appreciate the feedback from those of you who, completed that survey. Any other topics from our friends online? Harley?
Well, supportive services is always a big topic around our office, so I've been encouraging our team to be. They're like, we don't like these supportive services, and then I'm like, tell us what ones you want so that we can take it to NIFA and
That's what we want.
come up with a new idea. We have one project where we're doing like the really traditional, like, education on nutrition, financial education, and the feedback we've received is that our tenants are offended when they are being offered those services and they don't want to participate in it. So things like, well, if they don't like the renter's insurance, because apparently that's difficult to manage is what we found, but like the Isuzu is a great one that just seems really beneficial, and I'd love it if there were also more points associated with the ones where the owner developer is having to throw some money at the service, but it's providing like a real concrete benefit to the tenants.
Yeah, you know, that's been a focus over the last few QAPs. You'll notice we went significantly down in the number of supportive services you have to have. And we've really opened up the options so that there's some more low-cost alternatives. So yes, the idea of you saying to your teams, hey, bring us an actual, we like that. I don't see, based on board feedback, supportive services going away. They feel like for, you know, for the populations that are targeted, yes, obviously, crane projects are a little bit easier usually with your supportive services, but they will be here in some regard. So any suggestions, we'd love to hear them, because we are definitely open to adding more choices and removing those that no one ever checks. For example, we were going to look back if anyone in recent history had chosen the beautician option. I mean, at one point in time, maybe in some of those, in some of the old high-rise buildings, there may have been a little spot for a beautician to come in, but I don't think we're seeing that now. So, you know, there's things that we are definitely looking at removing as well. So please, any feedback on that is much appreciated.
And then as far as that goes, the design standards, the amenities, even the green standards, we've been kind of brainstorming to try to come up with some different ideas that could be offered. I'm just kind of bored with community gardens, like give me something else to put into these developments. And so I've been just asking our team to be making notes of what we're seeing at other projects, and what we're seeing in other states that get points. So hopefully throughout this process, we'll have some ideas to bring to the table.
That'd be great. I don't know if everyone could hear that online, but again, it's design standards and amenities and green standards that they're going to bring us some new ideas, which we're always happy to hear. I know there's been one of our board members that feels very strongly about insurance costs and adding something regarding resiliency. So that is something that, you know, we may be adding in some way. I can't tell you what that's going to look like yet. I don't know that it is going to be under design standards or an option under design standards, but that is something we've had a conversation about. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I just have a simple question. I believe Rob made a very good comment about the paratransit service in Omaha, and that's very correct. They do operate paratransit service that is a quarter mile along the fixed route, and that's to like help more probably disabled individuals and also low-income individuals. But I was curious to know if there is a map that like shows the areas of high opportunity. And I'm sorry if this is already spoken about earlier on, but I'd like to know how I can access that information.
Sure, we have your email address, from him signing up, probably. If you entered your email address from signing up, then we should have that and we can reach out to you and send you the, what's used currently. What we're developing is not out yet, but it will be, soon, because again, we'll have conversations outside of it. It'll be in June that we anticipate, having some comment periods and, well, not comment periods, but having some focus groups and discussion around the areas of high opportunity in June. But we can send you what we use now, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Would I be able to do that also?
Yeah. It's, for those of you that are familiar, it's in our application. The link is actually, if you go to the online app, or not the online application, but if you go to our website under application, it is part of the 9%, 9% application, and it's under areas of high opportunity. We'll definitely send it to you guys. Okay, any other comments? Okay, I think at this point in time, due to the fact that we're almost at 10:30, we will, or 11:30, I'm going back in time. We will go ahead and pick up on our agenda next time at track record, and we will do the same thing where we'll discuss these items, give some open time, and if we have additional time, we'll go back to the top in case for those who were not able to attend and have some comments they'd like. We'll continually do that in the focus group process, allowing people to bring things up as they see fit as well. So thank you for joining us today. This is a super important part of our process, and we need all of you to improve our QAP, and we want to do that every year. So again, thank you for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you at other focus groups. This will be posted on the website, I would guess probably next week sometime. So if you want to reference it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, NIFA, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Oh.